Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zionist AF. I am your host, Anya Farber, and we are joined today by a new friend. A new friend to Zionist
Hey.
AF. John is here, and John's going to introduce himself in just a second. But I want you guys to know, we talk about the algorithms of social media from time to time, and sometimes the algorithm gods are like, what the heck is going on? And other times it's like, oh, that's cool. So, yay, we were having an oh, that's cool moment. And I found John's page, and I want you to tell everyone kind of all about it. And by the way, I mean, if you decide to say your last name, then that's cool and everything, but it's like a celebrity name. And at first I was like, your name is what? It's kind of fun. How often do people ask you, obviously before they meet you, but like that's just, I don't know, either that's fun or it's really annoying. I don't know. I mean, it's either or. So John, you can feel free to tell us, like, generally speaking, where you're located, specifically where you're located. It's up to you. For the most part, I do believe that most of our listeners are friendly. But I mean, it is the internet, so you never really know who is watching. So you can decide how much privacy you'd like to have. So without further ado, John, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everyone here on Zionist AF what they should know about you.
Oh, hey, yeah. So my name's John Goodman. Famous last name, famous name, right? Funny story, I didn't know it was Jewish until I was in my 30s. I'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, I'm in Chicagoland. Yeah, it's what it's called, Chicagoland, because I'm not in Chicago proper. I'm in the suburbs, but it's all Chicagoland, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So
The suburbs, that's a fun word, by the way, John, suburbs. So we do have listeners that don't live in the United States. And,
oh.
sometimes when I'm trying to describe places in Israel that are not like the city, like, perhaps,
Yeah.
smaller towns and like villages that make up like,
So
different
the way I
areas. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of like the burbs, but more rural.
so how I describe it to people out of the country is most places in the rest of the world have big cities, and then they have farmland, rural areas, right? So I describe it to people. Here it's big city, and then it slowly goes out and slowly makes it out to the farmland, and
That's true.
you have your urban area, your suburban area, and your rural area. And the suburbs is where the city starts to turn into the rural area, but there aren't cows yet, right? So,
Well, sometimes in my suburban town, we do have 6 working farms.
oh wow, you're
Yeah.
out
And
in
there
the
are moo
suburbs
cows.
then. Moo cow.
No, I call them moo cows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they're cows, but they go moo, moo cow. Um, but actually, I liked
Sorry,
your
go
little
ahead.
like wah, but also
Yeah.
it's so clear that you paid attention in school.
Yeah.
Gosh, we must be of the same gender. Well, I know how old you
Yeah.
are because we already
Yeah.
talked before the podcast, but age is a number, John. It's age is a number.
Yeah.
And and my number just does not reflect how I feel. But because
Oh, I feel like
anyway.
I'm
But
20
like
most of the time, but my knees
I,
don't. I tell you what.
damn
Oh,
it, the whole body needs to cooperate. No,
yeah.
but like clearly you and I went to school when things were actually taught in school. And there were
Indeed.
expectations and these crazy things called consequences. So you actually understand what urban, suburban, rural means.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, and I
Hold
tell you
on, I
what.
need a second.
Oh, I'm about
Okay.
to blow your mind here. I
Oh,
can
again.
actually
Oh God.
probably
All right.
give you a civics lesson. Most people today don't know there's 3 branches of government, right? Whoa.
Civics? What
Yeah,
does that
what? Oh,
mean?
yeah, crazy.
So scary.
Our founding fathers were genius. They made checks and balances, division of power, right? Whoa. I know. It's like I'm talking of
My dog just came in and I didn't see her. I forgot to close the door. All of a sudden, a wet nose just.
Oh, I thought you were
We're
just
not cutting this out at all. No, this is golden. Oh my
Oh, I
God.
thought you were just really, really shocked that someone knew that
I
there were
mean,
3
I
branches of
was in
government.
my.
Executive, legislature, and judicial. What? Whoa!
Listen, this is like too much. I know. Listen, like in the last few podcasts, John, we've had people on that were just dropping knowledge left and right, but also very funny, like yourself. And I just feel like, oh my God, my listeners are just going to be like, wait a minute. This is like so. I just hold on. I need to pause this for a second. You know what? Maybe this podcast could become like a drinking game. You know, kind of like the PNC was.
Yeah. That's great. Every time you hear.
By the way, John, I thought you'd appreciate this. My son made this in school
I love
last
that.
year.
That's great.
So yeah.
Now,
he's learning a skill.
I was about to say, do they still have shop? Because
my son is actually taking all of like the shop, construction, all of those classes.
Nice.
Yes.
I didn't know they still had that. You know,
well, there's been this crazy resurgence that people were like, oh
yeah, probably with the tiny house movement, right? So now it's cool again.
I need to learn to do stuff. Yeah. So no, I won't let him do electrical in the house, but he's been doing a lot of other stuff.
Well,
I'm a little scared of electrical.
Oh, you need to talk to my mom every time I come over. She's like, "Oh, can you hang this light? Can you fix my DVD player?" I'm like, "Mom, no one uses DVDs anymore." Yeah.
I just had this conversation with my mom. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I found all these like DVDs from when my son was younger.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my mom. She every time I go back home to visit, she still has all the old Disney and the big plastic boxes, you know, the VHS tapes.
Wait, like the VHS tapes?
Yeah.
Okay, so we probably should describe this to some people who might just be too young to understand this. So, like back in the day, audiobooks or like Audible was called books on tape.
Yeah, cassette
and there were
tapes,
these little hard plastic cassette tapes. You could put in, remember, like the boombox, and you could actually. By the way, mixed tapes were often made off of the radio.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know about where you're at, but I grew up in Oklahoma, and they had like the top 8 at 8 or something like that. And every night I have to try and listen and play and record at the same time. Yeah, but the DJ would always interrupt the first like 2-3 seconds or the last 2-3 seconds, you know.
Wow, seriously, not a professional. By the way, now all I can hear in my head is OKLAMA. Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boom a sooner.
I don't know why I needed to do that, but
I've never seen the musical. Wow. Actually, I've never seen the musical.
I have.
Yeah.
So, I feel like we also should tell people Oklahoma is a state in the United States.
Yeah, and it looks like a pot. It sits on top of Texas, right?
It does look like a pot. Yes. Yeah. And so, by the way, Texas is the big one down at the bottom in the center. Oklahoma is right above it, as John pointed out, kind of like a pot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So South Central.
Yep.
So central, middle of the country.
Yeah, right. So if you go I-35 goes straight up and down, right? So you got.
I'm sorry, I-35
goes straight up and down. You got North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. Whoa. It's like I didn't even have to look at Google, right?
I know, because we used to have to know all the states and all the state capitals.
Yes.
And I feel like there was like a timed test on that too. Like I'm starting to have like some anxiety and some sweating going on right now, thinking like,
she'd come in and you could smell the freshly printed off Xerox paper that was still warm and still smelled like carbon. Yeah.
And do you remember the vis-a-vis markers? Like, because we would have teachers, maybe it was more for math, but I think we also did that with the states. Like she'd put the clear thing.
Oh yeah,
on
with
top,
the
and
little
then you would have to...
light thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? All right, so I didn't go to college until my 30s.
That was memory lane.
I didn't go to college in my 30s, and it was hilarious because the science teachers for chemistry would bust out the I don't know what it's called, the lamp
overhead
thing.
Projector.
Yeah, well,
overhead projector.
Yeah, well, you had the clear plastic, and they would draw it. You know, yeah, and kids were like, "What is this? It's so archaic."
You're like, I know what it is, but John, can we tell everyone why you didn't go to college until your 30s? Not that everyone needs to go to college, but
no.
Can you,
all right.
But can we tell them why? Well, I don't feel like it wasn't I didn't do it. You did it, so I feel like you should.
I mean, if you want, I'll give you my life story if you want. Yeah,
Well, I would like them to know this reasoning, like
Oh,
what you did do right after high school.
yeah. So after high school, I realized that I didn't have a learned trade. I didn't want to work at McDonald's. I worked at Sonic, actually. I didn't want to work at Sonic flipping burgers for the rest of my, and nothing against that. That's a great job when you're 16, right? And I made 5.25 an hour. That's how much minimum wage was back then. And I knew that I couldn't live off of that. So
Because you
I
learned in school.
right. I had a basic financial education class I took as an elective, right? Um, and I was like, you know what? I made the mistake. And anyone who makes the same mistake, if it works for you, great. Didn't work for me. I fell in love when I was that young. I wasn't in love. I was confused. I didn't know the difference between love and lust at that age, as most probably don't. However, I realized that I need to support a family if I want to be a serious, responsible adult. And you can't do that flipping burgers, even back then. And so I realized I didn't have a learned trade. And it was kind of family history. My dad was in the military, his dad, and so forth. Um, and so I joined the military. And I was a cop in
Thank
the.
you. Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. Here, let me turn the iPad around. I accept tips.
Yeah.
Now, now, yeah. So, yeah, I was a cop in the Air Force. I did 12 years. I didn't do a full 20. It's a young man's game. But, yeah, yeah, my back and my knees were done. But, yeah, and frankly, I can't. Maybe some people do, but I didn't love being shot at so much. So, I mean, crazy,
It's
right?
weird, John. And
Mm,
again, wow, weird. No, but again, thank you for your service. And it's cool to know
yeah,
that you have a family history because here in the United States, you and I both live in the United States. I mean, as you clearly pointed out when you said I'm from Oklahoma and I
yeah,
live in Chicagoland. By the way,
yeah.
Chicago is not in Oklahoma, just in case
No,
there's
I'm
people who
sorry.
are no. And just in case there are people who are listening from other countries who, and I have to say, I wouldn't expect them to know all 50 states. Like it's a lot. I'm just saying it is a lot. And also like other countries will call themselves states. Like Israel is the state of Israel. And
Oh,
I
you're
hate
right.
it's trying to explain that to people. Sometimes they're like, but what do you mean? I was like, no, there's states in the United States. It's I don't
The
know. I'm like,
United
I don't
States.
know. It just got really
Yeah,
complicated for some reason and English also doesn't, anyway. But
yeah.
so you have a family history and in the United States, in America, there we go, America, we do not make service mandatory. I really think we should. And
I
if it's not like military service, there should be mandatory community service. And by the way, I've
yes, I
noticed that
agree.
the public schools have gotten away from that as well. There
There's
used to be
no
a
civic duty,
mandatory.
no civic
There is no
responsibility,
civic, and it's no
no
wonder that
civic
with the things that we're
education.
going to talk about. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
John, I really feel like you're already Israeli because we're talking at the same time, which is totally fine, and it's not rude because we're both just so passionate about what we're talking about. And that's one of the things people often misunderstand about Israelis, that they talk over each other and they're like, oh my God, they're so rude. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't some rude ass Israelis because there are, okay? In fact, I bumped into one woman this summer, like not physically bumped into her, but I actually was in a conversation and she just like, and started yelling at the person. And I actually said to her in English, wow, you're a fucking bitch. Because I didn't know how else to respond because I had never seen someone just be so rude. So whoever you are, bats the fucking ha. I don't care about you. You're a rude bitch. So look at there are crappy people everywhere. I'm not saying, that they're not, but there are. Anyway, back to where we were talking about.
Oh,
There's really no sense of like any sort of courtesy, community, patriotism. Oh, I don't know. I might get flagged for that word, patriotism,
oh,
in the United States anymore or in America anymore. And a lot of people don't even understand. Now, while I did not choose to serve in the military. Both my grandfathers did fight in World War II for America. I know it's like mind-boggling for people to understand that my family has been here since like the early 1900s, late 1800s, but it's true. They left Russia and Poland when they started burning villages, and my family was like, "Well, this sucks. We're out."
so
I guess
the
that's kind of what
pogroms
they
then,
said.
right?
Yeah, the pogroms. Yeah, they were
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"This is bullshit," and they like left. So but in any event, like there is no sort of sense of service, and I do think, in addition to the fact that you like joined the military, you also served as a law enforcement officer, and that's another job here in the United States that I think does not get nearly enough credit,
especially
or
since the
nearly enough
Obama
thank yous.
administration, but we'll get to that
God,
too.
yeah, no, that we're getting there. Trust me, we're going down that hole of hell. For all those deplorables, Hillary Clinton.
Oh yeah.
God, I used to actually like Bill Clinton like a long time ago. I used to hold him in some sort of high esteem, but that was a long ass time ago,
you know what?
before the
I had this conversation earlier
intern
today
gate.
with my dad. I never did, solely because he did the same thing Biden did with Afghanistan. Biden pulled out of Afghanistan, people died. Clinton did the
Yeah, I
same
was
thing in
young and
Somalia.
naive.
But
I was young and naive, right? I mean, and this is also pre Monica Lewinsky, so I really didn't know what so.
and also though, I saw, I don't know if you saw Dan Crenshaw on the Bill Maher show the other day. He brought up, I forget the name of the old Democrat from Louisiana. I used to be a senator, I think. Anyway, he's not
I'll
in
have to think
politics
about
anymore,
it.
but he was big in politics in the '90s. Anyway, Dan Crenshaw, if you don't know, he's a congressman. Used to be a Navy SEAL. He's down in Texas in the Houston area, and he pulled out a piece of paper and he read, "Tell me, Kamala or what, Harris, whatever her name is,
Whatever.
yeah, she hasn't spoken about it about her policies at all yet."
All right, it's weird. I don't know why that happened.
And he said, "Let me read
What's her
these
name?
policies and tell me who you think these policies are from." And he was
Oh
reading
my
down the
God.
policies, and it sounds something much like what Trump it would say, secure the borders, this, that, and the other. But the old Democrat was like, that was Bill Clinton back when he was outfoxing Newt Gingrich. Bill Clinton nowadays would be
Oh my
considered.
God, Newt Gingrich. I haven't heard that name in a while either.
Oh, yeah, I voted for him in the primaries a couple years ago.
Unfortunate name though, really. Like Newt. Yeah, sorry, I just shouldn't have done that while you were about to sip the water or whatever it is you're drinking.
Yeah, it's not
5 o'clock
vodka.
somewhere.
No.
Whatever, John. We don't judge here. Listen, we already talked about this should be a drinking game. But really, both for his first and last name, just horrible sounding for Newt.
Yeah.
Gingrich. It just sounds like something from like Lord of the Rings.
Doesn't it? Yeah. It sounds like
his
he should be
parents
walking
were
around
just mean
barefoot,
people.
right? But you know what? He was, if I recall correctly, and I was pretty young, but if I recall correctly, he and Clinton both got praises for actually balancing the budget, and that was the last time it was done. Yeah. And
that's
I
crazy.
assume it was more Newt than Clinton because, again, separation of power, right? So, yeah. But
wait, you said 3 legislative branches? Yeah, it's a little scary what's going on right now in this country, and I think one thing that I think before we even go into all of this is it's important for people to understand kind of sort of how I came across who you are. Now, you are sitting here in a lovely, by the way, that's a killer shirt, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm gonna have to get you one of my Bahatz the fucking Cha shirts once I reorder sizes, because I do donate all the profits to Israeli charities, and it says Bahatz the fucking Cha once on the front and 6 times on the back. And I'm going to say the reason in Hebrew first and then in English. Kacha b'Shabbat. Ani tzricha lo omeret bahatz lefucking cha. So like even I need a day off on Shabbos, not to tell you to go fuck yourself, because like it's exhausting. Like calling out stupid people it's exhausting.
Oh, I'll wear it proudly.
Yeah, I mean, you're like, yeah, because like I need to do this all the time. And it oddly came from my quest to swear less. And so I tried to do like the Southern thing. Well, bless your heart.
Yeah.
God bless you. And God, I love people from the South because they're just like, they sound like they're being nice, but they're really telling you to go F off.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, well, good luck. So I would say batzlacha because people don't know what it means anyway. Like I was like, all right, Anya. And then I don't know, I just got so mad. And Israelis love to swear in English and they love the word fuck. So I was like, it was something, I mean, it was pretty close after October 7th, and I just like screamed out, well, what's the fucking ha? And then someone's like, you should actually make that into a shirt and a word. And so I did. I trademarked it here in the United States as an image. So if anyone
Nice.
tries to rip me off, I have it trademarked. And I'm donating the money to charity. So it's not like I'm making money off these shirts. I'm donating it to charity. So like, shame on you if you're going to try to rip me off, but don't, because I have a lawyer and he's awesome.
He's Jewish, right?
Yeah. He is.
Yeah.
He actually is he calls himself a journalist who happens to be a lawyer. Hi, Matthew Hausman. He's the best lawyer ever.
Nice.
And an amazing journalist. He's really very, very, very incredibly smart. So don't mess with him because he'll ruin you. No, he's actually an incredibly nice man. But an incredible lawyer. So just saying. It's like me. I'm really, really nice until you cross me. So I was on, like they said, the algorithms of social media, and I came across your site because you were reposting a lot of people that I also know and am friends with, and people who've been on my podcast or other content that I've created or shared or whatever. And so I was like, I got to reach out to this guy because like he's posting some really good stuff. And so we started talking. And it was really funny because you felt the need to tell me pretty early on in the conversation. You're like, by the way, I'm not Jewish. And I was like, by the way, that's cool. Cool. I was like, by the way, I am Jewish.
I always try and make it clear. One, because my name, and two, I don't want to ever try and misrepresent myself. Right. So, yeah.
Listen, I don't know that it's a club that you want to be in, John. Now we're not the most loved people.
I'm working on it, though. I'm working on it. I got a Chabad that I go to here. I love the Chabad.
I know Chabad is amazing.
Yeah.
They feed you.
Oh yeah, and they're.
By the way, you want to learn to drink?
I was about to say, the Chabad by me is a bunch of old Russian guys, and oh my goodness! So my first time going to this particular Chabad. And I'd been to Chabad once before ever. First time ever going to this one. First, they say a Chabad for Israel or L'chaim for Israel every Shabbos, right? A L'chaim for all the soldiers, right? A L'chaim for all the hostages. So that's 3 right there. But there was 4 babies born that week too.
Oh, so that's 4 more. Not 1 for the 4 babies. That's 4 more.
And so this is my first time actually really, really going to Chabad.
Oh my God, you're like,
and I drove there and I'm like, yeah.
See, on Shabbos, John, no one's driving.
Yeah.
No one's driving. See? Yeah. Now you're like, oh, it's because they're religious. No, because they're drinking.
Yeah, that's why I told the rabbi. I was like, is this why no one does anything on Shabbos? Because you guys are bombed? Holy cow. And no,
Friday night and
yeah. My goodness. But no, I love it. And I've been working.
Listen, Jesus turned water into wine for a reason,
That
John.
was his first miracle. That was his first miracle, which for that reason, I don't understand why Christians look down upon drinking. My goodness.
Dude, Jesus, wine. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. So
trying to make some people happy.
Yeah. His mom, they were at a wedding, right? Very Jewish thing, right? They were celebrating. And the mom looks at Jesus like, hey, we're out of wine. And he's like, I got this.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep. That was his first miracle. Yep. And they said L'chaim, right? Mazel tov, too.
Yeah. Priorities.
Right?
Ask Jesus.
So
nice going.
Yeah.
And obviously everyone knows that we're not disrespecting any form of Christianity at all. And you and I were both talking how I was at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre for the first time because there are not a lot of tourists right now in Israel. So there was not like this 4 to 6 hour line to get in. So I was like, oh, I'm going to check that out finally because there's not a ton of people. Because again, being Jewish, I'm very curious and I respect other religions. It's just I wasn't gonna go in there and also take time away from someone else that would want to that needed compelling,
it's more meaningful to someone else.
Correct. But it was super cool. Also, they're doing some restoration work on it, so it was kind of cool to see that aspect of it too, and just how meticulous they're being to preserve everything. But of course, make sure it's still standing and doesn't fall down.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of important. Yeah, it's kind of important. Jesus is he was like buried there. So I would imagine like keeping it standing would be
Has
probably
a
the
little bit of
best idea.
significance, right? So
Right. Yeah. Well, because in Israel you can freely worship any religion you would like, John. So
indeed,
whether or not you convert, you can be happy in Israel because it's the only one in the
I
Middle East where you can be
everyone.
any of those religions,
I've
and you can
been
also love whoever the hell you want to love.
indeed.
You can,
They have, from what
whatever.
I've seen and heard, I haven't been personally, but from what I've seen online and heard and from people who've gone, it's
The largest gay pride parade in the world.
yes,
Is that what you were going to
yeah,
say?
oh
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Well, listen, just follow Daniel Ryan Spalding.
oh yeah.
By
He's
the
a
way,
quick plug. He's going to be here on the
not
26th.
Jewish.
No, he's not. Um, in fact, the Chicago Jewish Alliance is having an event with him on the 20th tonight, um, down at
Oh yeah,
Carnival.
it's nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
and they're advertising
Well,
him
Daniel,
not as
if
the
you're if
power gay,
you're
but the
if you're
power goy.
listening, well, he is also a power gay.
Yes, he is.
And I love that like he is so passionate about women's rights and the hostages and speaking up for the women who were raped. But also he is just so hilariously fun to watch when he's just advocating for Israel
Yes.
and talking about how beautiful. You're going to have to just stay with me for a minute here, John. How beautiful the men are in Israel and how his favorite cock in the whole world is Israeli cock. And I it's just like,
Well,
well, I mean, if
to
that
each their
doesn't
own.
convince you, I don't know what will.
To each their own.
So to anyone
But you
who
know
likes
what?
the male species in a sexual way, just listen to Daniel Ryan Spalding for like 5 minutes, and you'll be convinced Israel's the place for you.
Oh yeah, he goes on about the hot gay guys, and right. So, and don't get me wrong,
Well, listen,
I'm
in
secure
Tel
enough.
Aviv, there are a lot of hot gay guys.
Oh,
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I like watching the hot gay guys too. They're not interested in what I have to offer, but that's cool
Well, I'll tell
because
you
they're
what.
still beautiful to look at.
Every first Shabbos of the month, I go to Bucktown Chabad in here in Chicago, and there's a gay Israeli guy there, and he's probably one of the most beautiful men I've ever seen in my life, ever. I mean, yeah, and I'm secure in my
Of
masculinity.
course,
I'm
he's
not.
gay.
Yes, and
Damn it.
he's a beautiful man though. Yes.
We should have that beautiful man send us a picture. We'll put it up at this podcast. But
Okay.
so anyway, so we were talking and it's just like I just love this world that I'm living in right now. But we were looking at, and so why don't you tell everyone like the name of the page and why you started. We're obviously going to include all the links and everything with the podcast description, but kind of why don't you tell us like what what motivated you to be like, I'm going to open up an Instagram page because listen, I've got to say my piece.
Well, for this one, I'm gonna have to go back to I told you the story about the old man from Jerusalem, right? So I'm gonna start around there. So after I got out of the military, I went to college in Colorado, and after that, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But when I got out of the military, I had bad PTSD, and there weren't a lot of resources out there for veterans at the time. I ended up having,
which is a shame, and this country still should do more for veterans.
I agree. Abraham Lincoln once said, if we send them off to die, at least we owe them is to take care of them once they come back. But yeah, so there wasn't a whole lot of resources at the time. I paid out of pocket for a service dog of mine. She passed in September, so almost a year ago now. But I opened up a nonprofit called Scars and Stripes, and I trained and provided service dogs to veterans with PTSD. When I did that, I moved to Tennessee, another state, and that's very southern.
Tennessee.
They say bless your heart there.
Tennessee. They do.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Tennessee. Was that Beck? Tennessee? Tennessee? Is that Beck?
I know. It's just yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so when I moved down there, I paid a moving company, and I guess they subcontracted out. I bought a farm in the middle of nowhere. It was 15 acres in the middle of nowhere, or if you're not American, that's about 7 hectares, right? So, yeah. So, anyway, yeah, a big moving truck pulls up, and this old man from Jerusalem gets out, and he looks at the work order, and he sees the name, John Goodman, and he goes, "Ah, you're Jewish!" And I said, "I'm not Jewish." He goes, "But your name's Jewish." I said, "Is it?" He goes, "Ask your rabbi." so I don't have a rabbi.
Like, I'm not Jewish. I don't have a
Yeah, and
rabbi.
he goes,
Man, are we speaking?
yeah, and he goes, you need a rabbi. And oddly enough, in my life, I had previously had little connections with Judaism and whatnot in my life previously to that. But up until that time, I didn't know that Goodman was a Jewish name. I really didn't. And so, yeah, or at least could be a Jewish name, right? So I did a DNA test. I did 23andMe and Ancestry.com. 1% Ashkenazi, 1% Sephardic. It's nothing, right? But
Everyone's a big old mutt. Come on
yeah,
now.
I am. I'm in America. Oh my goodness, I got everything from Europe in me, right? I do everything. So I got 3 types of African in me. Crazy, but not where you'd want it to be. So I yeah. so so I go and I kept that in mind. Oh, the he looks around, and I found out later this is a very Jewish question. He looks around and he goes, "Are you single?" I said, "I am." He's like,
Because I know a perfect girl for you.
"Oh, he probably did. He probably
So
did."
listen, we drink.
Yes,
We want to feed you.
I found that
We
out
want
too.
to get you. We want to get you a partner.
Yeah.
Even if we don't have a partner ourselves, our focus is to find you a partner. Uh,
Yeah, and
I think I know someone for you.
I wish I would have got the guy's name. All I remember was he had moved from Jerusalem, and his wife, he lived in Miami, but he drove a truck, and I wish I would have got his name. But yeah, he looks at me and, are you single? Yeah. And he goes, where are you gonna find a woman out here? And I said, I don't know. There's a bar like 45 minutes that way. He goes, you're never gonna go. I didn't. He goes, you need a Jewish woman. And okay. Yeah, so years later, it was in my head. And so I went on JDate, honestly, right? And I did not pretend to be
Wow,
Jewish.
blast from the past.
Well, I went with what I knew, right? Apparently
Yeah.
J Swipe's a thing
Listen,
now. I don't know. Is that like
I
Jewish
don't know.
Tinder?
I'm not a dating app person, but though I did as a social experiment in Israel go on a dating site. But I will tell you clearly, Jewish women are a commodity. Clearly.
Indeed, I agree fully. All right, one thing I've learned is Jewish women are to be treasured, and what your Jewish women are also the keeper of life, the keeper of light, and the keeper of Shabbos, right? Jewish women light the candles.
We light the
Yep.
candles. Yeah.
Speaking of, I got a great story about that later too. But
Awesome.
yeah, so I ended up found a Jewish woman.
You found a nice Jewish girl.
I did. Well, she oddly enough, I didn't know she wasn't American at the time. She was Czech. She was from Prague, but she had a cool job, and she'd always be like, "Hey, you want to meet up in Panama for the weekend, or you want to meet up in Helsinki for the weekend?"
Sure.
Yeah. So we do like vacation dates, like meet up for the weekend in different places, and yeah, we dated for until COVID happened, but then she got locked down in the Czech Republic, and that's when I found out
Oh.
because she had apartments everywhere because of her job. She had apartments in like
Right,
New
right.
York and LA and everywhere, right? And but she got locked in the Czech Republic because she was Czech, and that's where. And so ultimately, it didn't work out. Yeah, and not for the reasons of COVID, but anyway, uh, yeah. So
That's another podcast,
that's
John.
another podcast.
I feel like that might actually be an entire podcast.
Oh, that probably would be. Yeah. So, I had made up in my mind that I was going to try and convert, and don't tell my
Okay.
mom. My mom, she's probably the most evangelical person in the world ever, and
Yes, but evangelical Christians love Israel.
they do. But if all right, how to put this? She would believe that I'm going to hell, and that's part of the reason why. All right, this is a long story, man. Where to begin? So
that's why she has you doing all the electrical work. She's trying to get you zapped.
probably. So not once but twice, I actually applied to be a preacher to get a master's in divinity at Liberty University to become a Southern Baptist preacher. I was accepted, but something inside me, I couldn't do it. I didn't know why at the time, and like I said, I've always been drawn to Judaism for some reason. Even when I was a Christian, I'm not trying to insult anyone, sorry, but
Oh, I mean, I think you were fluid. You were kind of on the
yeah,
journey.
yeah,
And Jesus was a Jew.
he
Just
was.
saying.
My first real interaction with Judaism in Colorado, I went to it wasn't a Messianic Jewish church, but that's what I call it because the preacher was a Jewish man from Rabbi who found Jesus. But he practiced everything like Rosh Hashanah,
Oh,
Yom
well,
Kippur, you know.
that's an interesting form, and many would say not
Yes,
Judaism.
well,
Yes. So
that was
I
my
was like,
first
let me
foray
just
into it.
clarify.
No, no,
Right
no, no,
there.
no. I'm not trying to at all. So that was my first. How about introduction to Jewish holidays? How about that? Is that
There you go.
there we go. Yeah. So, um, yeah. So I go and I make up my mind that I'm gonna actually convert to Judaism. And through
Welcome.
thank you. And for many different reasons. And most of all, I studied academically both Christianity and Judaism, and to me, they
Same corporation, different division.
not quite. It's like more like Apple versus Google. They both have smartphones, right? One's got Siri, one's got Alexa. No, Amazon has Alexa, but you know what I'm saying. Similar, but not quite there. Um, yeah. So yeah, Apple versus Mac. That's a better one. Yeah. But yeah. So um, anyway, so yeah, I when I moved to Chicago this time, I move around a lot in my life. I got here in February, and I went on the JUF website and I emailed a bunch of of synagogues, shuls, whatever, and it was like, hey, I'm wanting to try and convert, and no one got back to me. Well, I take that back. One did. One got back to me, but they didn't have anyone who in their uh, shul that did conversions. So I was kind of
I know we make it so hard. Like we're the most hated people. We're the chosen people, but we're hated so much. And like you think that with a group of people persecuted so much, we'd be like, welcome, welcome. We're gonna make it really easy. No, we're like, let me make it really hard for you. I want to know that you're really dedicated to this.
And what was it?
And
Elon Gold. He said, we don't proselytize. In fact, we make it a turnoff. Do you want to be persecuted? What?
yeah.
You want to have days where you just don't eat? Yeah. So, yeah. How about circumcision? That's a winning. I'm already clipped. Just saying. But even so, they have to take sacrificial blood. Did you know that? I didn't know that. But still.
I did not because I don't have that issue,
Of course.
physiologically, but
Yeah.
also I was born into the religion. Everyone in
Yeah.
my family is Jewish, so like I wouldn't have known that. But thank you for sharing because I do love when we drop knowledge. But I think the most interesting thing and the most interesting piece of all of this is whether or not you go through all of the conversion and whenever that happens or whatever exactly like. For me, welcome.
Thank you.
Again, so excited that people choose to be part of the persecuted chosen people. But you know what that is? That's a bahatz the fucking cha to the terrorist sacks of shit that, by the way, hate the rest of you, America.
Indeed.
They just hate me the most. He's like a close second because he's like, oh yeah, I served my country and I'm choosing to be Jewish. Like, yeah, you're like pretty high up on the list, John. I'm just letting you know you're like almost there in the eyes of the terrorists. So kudos on that.
Thank you.
Or kol hakavod, as we would say in Israel. And
so,
it's.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say.
I was just. No, I'm just I know this is how it is. See, this is it. We're like, but it's all passion. But like the thing is, I do think it's amazing. But on top of your interest in the religious part, you were sharing with me that you feel very very strongly about what's going on in Israel,
Indeed.
not
And
just since October 7th, but something motivated you. So I wanted
yeah,
people
yeah.
to understand kind of where the
And
page came from.
yeah, that's was right where I was about to touch. I promise.
I think we're
So
already linked,
I know,
John. We're
right?
already linked.
So even though no one really got back with me, I got tired of just seeing pages out there. They're just memes, and that's great. I share them too. I try and share information as well, but I wanted to get involved. I wanted to go and I saw that what was happening on the college campuses. And yes, I'm a firm believer in free speech, but that's not free speech. That's
No, John, and thank you, because you are an educated fellow and you know that free speech means that you have the right to assemble with a permit. You have the right to say things, even things that are anti-government, anti-establishment. You may say them. You may not threaten to kill people. You may not cause destruction of property. You may not assault people, put your hands on them, block them, block roads, restrict access to things, and you may not break into buildings, and you may not hold people hostage. None of those things are free speech. But clearly those in college now, I mean, it speaks volumes about our education system if
I
that's what's
agree.
going on. But please share. And also, you and I had talked before the podcast that we both know of. Well, I think you said you either knew of her or knew her. Angry Mom, who is a
No,
friend of mine, and we just call her Angry Mom, and she's the one who went to at Northwestern and just took all those pro Hamas signs down. And she said all it takes is an angry mom who loves her Jewish friends, and she's also not Jewish. And she's like, this has nothing to do with Judaism. This is just disgusting, hateful stuff, and this is anti-American.
yeah,
And I'm like, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
yeah, I completely agree. And I saw what's going on, and it's very reminiscent of, forgive me for throwing history out and facts, right? But very reminiscent of 1978 Iran or 1938 Germany. Um, it
Yes, it is, John. And again, because you know your history, good, because you're able to say that, and thank you for saying that as well, because at some of the college campuses, when the Jewish students were complaining, like, we can't get to class, we don't feel safe, well, then you could just stay home or go in the back door.
yeah,
John,
that
you learned things in school. So, there was this crazy period in America, not a period to be proud of, a dark period of history, where we also would only allow certain people access to certain things. It was this crazy thing called oh yeah, racism and segregation.
indeed.
And in this day and age, if someone said, okay, all black people have to go in the back door, or all homosexuals have to go in the back door, or whatever it is, people would be like, oh my God.
It's
Oh my
it's
God, like, I don't know why the Jewish students are getting like so upset.
there's some horrible hypocrisy going on because it.
John, that's a very big word
I
for those
know,
people.
right? Double standards, right? So yeah, if you plugged in any other minority group at, prior to October 7th, people would have had a fit. And you know
Mhm.
what? They may have even had a fit prior to October 7th with Jewish people too. But for some reason after October 7th, there was a huge uprising, one in anti-Semitism, which is beyond me because it's one, I don't understand hatred of any kind. But
We feed you and we get you drunk. I mean, what is the problem here?
right? Right? And the there's so much going on that it's not just anti-Semitism. It's hatred for American values, hatred for the West, hatred for
Oh my God.
democracy,
Wow,
hatred.
John. Yes.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I wonder, like, as a veteran yourself, like, it's such a smack in your face
Oh, it is.
when they burn American flags.
Uh,
Like, it
yeah.
is so mind-boggling to me. And like, people are proudly carrying around terrorist flags of people that would kill you just the same. But I'm reaching for something on
Uh,
my desk, because on my desk, just like at every pro-Israel rally, you see this.
yes. I've handed those out. I've handed those out.
you together. Sometimes they're like this. Sometimes they're like this. But either way, they're together. Oops,
I have about a dozen of
what?
each in my car. If anyone sees me on the
Right.
street and needs an American or Israeli flag, I got you.
Right. And they're literally taking both of these down, burning them, spitting on them, stomping on them. And I'm like, you dumb sacks of crap. The thing is, I can't even make sense of it. And I'm, because like, okay, you know what? Okay, Queers for Palestine. I will drop your dumb ass off in the border and push you over the border to Gaza, and they will give you a parade. It's dragging your body through the streets as they beat you. And if you're still alive when they drag you to the roof to throw you off of it for your rooftop party, that's what you're going to get in Gaza or in any of the surrounding Arab countries.
Saudi.
In Israel, they show you they really actually have the best. By the way, Daniel Ryan Spalding, if you're watching Zionist AF, I really want to party with you at the next gay pride parade because you look like you are fun. And it is so fun. It is just so fun. Like there are as many gay pride flags in Israel flying as Israeli flags.
Yeah, and I saw that, and yeah, well, back on topic to the Queers for Palestine thing. I have a friend who's Saudi, right? He's been here for, I don't know, probably 6 years or so, but he's a Saudi national, and he was raised in those beliefs, and he still kind of has them, right? But he understands it's not acceptable here. So, like, we saw a trans person one day, and he's like, in my country, we throw them off roofs. I'm like, dude, that's not okay. He goes, well, I wouldn't do it here. I'm like, I get it, but that's not okay. And these kids don't get it. They don't. I've been to almost every Middle Eastern country. I've been to almost every country that ends in stan.
But he said it so nonchalantly.
Yeah.
In my country. You're like,
yeah.
Did you hear yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong. It sounds very ironic. The guy has a good heart. Maybe not in that area, but
well, bless his heart.
Yeah, bless his heart. But he knows the rules, and he respects America and respects the opportunity he has here, and respects the rule of law. However, he knows how it is in the rest of the world. Well, not the rest of the world, but in his part of the world, right?
Yeah.
So
would he go back?
That's a good question. I don't think he would. I think he'd go back to visit like family or whatever, but I don't think he would go back because he realizes the opportunities and he appreciates it. And he's not even a moderate Muslim. He's not. He will say he's Muslim. He'll do. He probably doesn't even do the prayer 5 times a day. He does it maybe 2 or 3, right? But
that's still a commitment.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. He drinks. They're not allowed to drink. We
will not say his name because we do not want something to happen to him if he goes back to his country.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, I think that's a good way to point out, like, there's so much going on. And again, look, America should be a place where all of the things, and today is also 3 years since we the
out of Afghanistan. Yeah.
Pull out of Afghanistan, where we left them with all of the equipment.
Yes.
And lost 13 service members because the administration is well.
Yeah.
There was a picture that summed it up perfectly today. It was a picture of Tweedledee and Tweedledum walking together, like a pose, like an old stock picture of them like walking somewhere, and it's like Tweedledum is on the campaign trail, and Tweedledee is on his second vacation. He's taking a vacation in Delaware because he needs rest from his vacation in California. And they're like, who's running the country, and what is this saying to the people that hate America? You wonder why this has infested our universities. You wonder why. Look, this didn't happen on October 7th. This has been happening, and the infestation in our institutions, and quite frankly, our K through 12s as well, It is absolutely absurd and disgusting. And as someone who used to actually teach, I am still a certified teacher. It really makes me so sad. And one of the many reasons I left teaching is because it's not about teaching anything anymore, and it's just like whatever willy-nilly bullshit, woke crap movement, the way the wind blows is what we're telling kids, and we are putting our children, our future generations, at such a disadvantage. It is mind-blowing to me. I mean, it would be mind-blowing for them, but there's nothing in their mind to blow out because they're just not learning anything unless they have parents at home like you and I who are like, "Oh no, you're going to learn something." And teaching our values and teaching, historic documents and doing that. And I am very terrified as an American, not as an American Jew, John. I am terrified as an American when I look around and see what is going on in the country that I currently reside in.
Well, I agree,
I am genuinely scared.
and I am as well because, like I said, it's very reminiscent of, all right, if you want to put it in just the scope of Jewishness, right, Jewry, very 1938, very Kristallnacht, right? But
Oh God, yeah.
if you want to put it in the scope as America as a whole, very Iran 1978. They used the students for an uprising, and they instituted just crazy Islamic rules, Sharia law. You
Oh
know,
yeah, Sharia law is all the rage. All the Queers for Palestine people are going to totally love it.
oh yeah, yeah. No freedom of expression. What was it? I was reading in the news today, a 13-year-old boy who was just beheaded because he was listening to Western music. Yeah, so yeah, they have a list of haircuts. Not that that's a problem for me, that you can have because you can't have too Western of a haircut, right? Um, Women aren't allowed to run in public. They're not allowed to show skin in public. Not allowed to show their hair in public. Not allowed to sing in public. Um,
Well,
ah,
there's no music anyway.
oh,
It is just, it is so terrifying to me that all the people who like advocate for, Me Too or any of that, how dare they dismiss the Israelis?
oh,
I
I
recently was online and I heard an influencer who read. I don't even know if I can say this. It's like she read the family member of this Nova survivor who took their life.
yeah, that's
The
going
family
around
member
today.
chose, yeah,
Yeah,
the family member chose to share the suicide note, and
it,
I was watching and listening, and it was like I just, and I think a lot of our veterans like yourself and people who have PTSD and who come home and like I know many veterans who the survivor guilt and all of these other things, and it's like as if what you went through wasn't bad enough. As if it wasn't bad enough. Now you have these people who are like dismissing you or acting like it didn't happen. Or I mean, I can't even, because like, well, all these people, and I'm not gonna say it's ignorance, John, because there's no excuse for ignorance in this day and age. There's just no excuse for ignorance.
you're right.
And also, as my parents told me when I was younger, possibly in high school, and like used, but I didn't know. That was my big excuse for why, like, I don't know, I didn't come home on time or something. I don't know. My parents were like, ignorance is not an excuse, Anya. And I was like, you know what? Shit, you're right. So it wasn't, ignorance is not an excuse. It wasn't then, and it most certainly is not now. Um, and there's just no excuse for any of the things that are going on. But as someone who worked in politics, who grew up believing in our system of government and our rules of law, and that there was like a separation and that people would be treated fairly, and that we were going to protect our communities and have this sense, what is going on in this country is literally terrifying to me, John. It is so terrifying to me that when my son, who is 17 and a big guy, like a power lifter, football player, and I mean American football, not football, soccer football player, when he's like, oh, can I go, whatever out with my friends? I'm like worried about him. I'm worried about who might be there and snap and just decide to shoot up the place, or who might go and target him because he's Jewish, or who might, all of these things. It is absolutely absurd. Now, he was with me in Israel this summer, and he said, oh, hey, Mom. Oh, wow, I've now forgotten these two kids' names. But from his summer program from last year, when he went to Poland and toured the camps in Poland and then went to Israel, two of the kids are living in Israel. And so he said, can I go hang out with them? And I was like, sure. So they came, they picked him up, and I, got to say hi to them again because I hadn't seen them since last summer. And they went out for like the entire day. And I didn't see him again. He left in the morning. I didn't see him again until like 7, 8 o'clock at night. And, I texted him once or twice, like, hey, how's it going? Like, what are you guys doing? Just kind of wondering, like, what were they taking him to do, or what were they, like, I don't know, what a
Hey, Phil, you getting
17-year-old
no.
boys. No, not at all. Like, and the thing was, my son was like, Mom, like, we could do like whatever. Like, he was just baffled, like how there was just like this just community of like people weren't like watching them, but they were like looking out for them. And
Very 1980s America. Generation X, raised on neglect and garden hose water.
Yeah, garden hose water was good, John. It was really tasty. That's what I would drink out of.
Yeah.
Because you could just go to anyone's yard and turn on the hose and drink if you were thirsty.
Right.
Because you would go out in the morning and then you wouldn't come back until your mother, screened for you to come home because dinner was ready.
Or the street lights came on. You better be home before the street lights come on, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, he had a great time. And, there was not, like, when I say I texted him, I was more like, hey, what are you doing? Not
what
where
are you doing?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
And I thought about that and how, like, I don't even know how to express, like, appropriately how different it is. And, like, people are like, but how could you take your son to Israel now? It's so dangerous. I'm like, oh, well, actually, statistically speaking. And the minute you say that to someone, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're going to talk to me like that. I was like, why? I'm sorry. Do facts bother you? Like, is the truth painful? No, like, to the point of and I don't want to say behaviors because that sounds bad, but like, if you said to me, would you walk around a major city in the United States alone at night? My answer would be like, are you out of your mind? Hell no. Now ask me if I would walk in any city or town or anywhere in Israel alone. Yes, I would. And I have. And I do.
And I can, I can relate to that as well. I have never been to Israel. I'm hoping to go before the end of this year.
We will get you. We will get you there, John.
But yeah, there's places in Europe, Poland, and Prague as well, in the Czech Republic. You can walk around 2, 3 in the morning and not have to worry about your safety. And
exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, Chicago. There's parts of Chicago that I look at and I'm like, I'll just take an Uber.
You look like you're kind of like a big dude there, John. And if you're like, like, well, I'd be like, hell no. And I'm a pretty scrappy lady, but like, I don't think to myself, oh gosh, am I leaving the house with protection? And I don't mean like,
it's different when you're 17 protection,
like,
but yeah, yeah.
When I mean like protection for my
safety
and like living safety, to continue to breathe again, that kind of protection. And like in Israel, like, no, it's not at all. And the other thing that I absolutely I find quite fun is, you could be walking, down the street in Israel and, at a market, at a store, wherever, I mean, at the park, whatever. And you'll see people, with just like, like the machine guns, like strapped over their body. It's because different people are able to, but depending on what they're doing, either work wise or where they live, etc., are able to, carry, and other people can carry handguns in Israel. And it's just like people are like, but oh my God, isn't that like so nerve wracking? I'm like, no, actually, because it's like Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and try something. Because,
Right?
like, how far are you going to get? Not very far.
No,
But I love when I see, like,
completely agree.
women with a stroller and then the machine.
Well,
That's
I
awesome.
know a lot of women, Jewish women included, that have their concealed carry, and I'm a strong advocate for, especially, yeah, there you go, there you go. I'm a strong advocate for especially Jewish women, to learn. I'm a big advocate for gun safety. I'll gladly teach anyone how to shoot, but I will not let you get anywhere near a gun unless I know that you can handle it safely. And I taught my children how to shoot, but I made them sit through a gun safety class with me, and
No,
I
you
taught them.
absolutely should.
And
Right. And that's why there's laws and stuff, though, in this
right,
country, state to state, it's
yes,
different. And I live in one of the most liberal states. And so I feel like every other day they're taking away a new right of mine.
yeah. In Illinois, you
And
used to be
it's
able to carry,
frustrating.
not carry, but own an AR-15, but you can't anymore. And uh, yeah, Illinois, Chicago, is another very liberal state, liberal city.
Chicago
So
is the city,
yeah,
Illinois is the state,
mm,
America is the country.
yes,
No, and
but
we joke, and I think a certain proportion of our viewers and listeners will laugh because they're of a certain age that actually remembers that when you actually had to teach things. But so you did open this Instagram page and you've been reposting a lot of really wonderful information. No, we're still getting there. Don't
yeah.
worry, John. I've got you. I've got you. I am paying attention today. My ADHD is under control today. What? No,
Yeah, so I saw everyone posting memes and whatnot, and I wanted to truly get involved. So I started a Instagram page called rally.to.never. So it's rally.to.never. And I went to I got with befriended a Instagram user. Her username is the Snarky Semite. She just made Aaliyah. I want to say earlier
love
this
that.
month.
Kol hakavod and mazzles.
Yeah, so
I'm on my way. I'll be there soon.
She's loving life over there. But
Yeah.
we met up at DePaul University. It's in Chicago, and there was an encampment there, and there was maybe about a dozen of us. And one of the guys that was there, his name is Natan. Natan's like, hey, you got to meet Josh and Danny. We just founded this thing. It's called the Chicago Jewish Alliance, and it was a grassroots movement to help fight anti-Semitism. And we threw rallies there at DePaul. I was on page 3 of the Chicago Tribune. They got a picture of my tattoo, "We the People." After the rally, I went and I shook every cop's hand.
People
What's that?
Did people know what We the People is for?
A law student did. Other than that, no. No one. I have
That would have
Hamzas
been
here too.
beautiful.
No one knew what
That
my
would have
Hamzas are.
Oh
Yeah,
dear.
yeah.
But
No
that
one
would have
knew
been
that
interesting to
this.
go.
So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, join or
That would
die.
have been interesting if you went and asked the protesters.
Yeah.
What does "We the People" mean?
Yeah, they don't know. Just like they say, we don't want no
It's a
two
rap
state.
song.
We just want the 48. That was the British mandate, right? So I mean, come on. Anyway.
I can rhyme too. Oh, all right.
Yeah. So
Were they playing their stupid like rhyme things? Because like
they
that
were.
the rhyming stuff, it comes from like there's actual like scientific research behind this. Like that's why like all these children's books rhyme, because when children are developing, they don't have that. They're it's not like you can't say kids are stupid. No, they haven't developed that part of their brain yet of like critical thinking and understanding and all these things. So it rhymes,
Well, they
so it's
still
easy.
have it, and they're in their 20s now.
Well,
but
those kids, those people.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because it's really it quite amuses me. And someone I know, you repost him a lot. I am Joe Paul.
Yes.
He was on my podcast the other day, and he's like, "I ain't gonna lie, they got some catchy slogans." I was like, "Listen, Joe, just because it rhymes doesn't mean it's catchy." But so I actually, and I think I shared this with you.
It's no. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. I'm
Must have
sorry.
quit. I know. Yeah, I know. OJ. Oh my God. Do you remember? Like, I remember watching that whole the
do.
Bronco chase and everything. All right. See, that's where the ADHD is kicking in.
It was
Focus,
right
honey.
in the middle of
Focus.
the Lakers game, and they took the Lakers game and put it down in the little
Oh
picture-in-picture
my God.
box.
That must have pissed off so many people.
I think it was the playoffs. I
Um,
think, but yeah. Go ahead.
I honestly don't remember, but I mean, I remember like watching it and thinking like, why the hell do people try to run? Like,
Yeah.
like it's so stupid. Um,
Anyway,
but
Joe Paul.
Joe Paul.
Rhyming.
So yeah, so I love him. He's
Yeah.
he's so funny. So he was on the podcast the other day. We were talking, and I was so sick and tired of hearing. So I'm gonna do it in the voice because they're all so dumb. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And so I just got so sick and tired of it. I wrote my own version of "From the River to the Sea, Israel has and always will be," and that is the title, and that is the like chorus, I guess you could call it.
You should get Joe Paul in it. He
And
just released
I know I was in
yeah.
it.
Oh, that's right.
I
You
went like
were.
this.
That's right. You were.
Yeah.
My dog tags are over there. I'm sorry. So,
Oh, that's okay.
yeah.
Like your US, your
Oh no, I don't
like
even know where those are.
oh the
But
hot
no,
oh
my
okay the
bring him home
hostage dog
dog tag.
tag.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's I mean, you don't no, whatever.
Right.
But like yeah, so I was in it because and I felt very very fortunate to know it was coming out and that he was working on it. And he and I have been doing some collaborative work on quite a few things, which is great. Because he's really in it for the right reasons, and he's an incredibly educated person.
He is. He is. I
And
repost
even
a
though
lot
I
of his
know that
stuff
like
because it's.
yes, I know because he's so spot on and he really does
Yeah.
his like research and I think what's so great about him is, because he's like this like, former music rap person, so you don't necessarily expect it. Plus he's got that like New York, I'm going to, like he's such a New York Joe. I love you, Joe. Don't worry. I do. No, I spoke to him earlier today. Like we're good. No, I do. I adore him. He cracks me up. I brought him with me. I was looking for another
I'd love to sit and have a beer
podcaster.
and a cigar with him. I would. I would just love to.
Oh yeah, no,
sit
he's
and bullshit
hilarious. And
anti-Semitism with him. So
yeah, I mean, but he also like you can hang out with him in a very serious way or a fun way. And
Yeah.
I actually brought him. I was invited to the October 7th play and to cover it. And I was there with some people from the foreign ministry, and they had asked me to bring like another podcaster or an influencer. And of the people that I could think of, and I obviously wanted to bring someone who was like right there, local. I had called Joe and I was like, "Hey, you got to come to this play, blah blah blah." And it was so funny. We were talking like before the play, and he turns to me and he goes, "You know what you are?" And I'm like, always like, "Oh God, what's going to come out of your mouth next?" Right? He's like, "You're like the female version of me, but hotter." And I was like, "Thank you." And he's like, "Well, you have." And he goes, "Well, like you're the female version of me with tits." And I was like, "Well, I am a female, so yeah." I was just like, "What?" And then we both just started laughing because I was just I did not know what was going to come out of his mouth. And
Yeah.
but we do get along splendidly, and I do think that it's a combination of I don't give a flying, whatever if you're just going to be hating or ignorant or any of that stuff, and we very vehemently speak our mind and defend Israel and the United States, like crazy freedoms and stuff like that. So but he came with me to October 7th, and it was a very interesting play. It was a verbatim play. It was these two Irish journalists that went over shortly after October 7th to take testimony because they were just disgusted by what they were seeing in Ireland. They're like, "We're going to need to bring the truth." So they did, and they made this beautiful play. It was really, really well done. They had actors and actresses reading the lines of what people had told them in testimony verbatim.
Wow.
So word for word, it was very interesting, and it was like one of these things where like it's that one day, so they're all kind of talking about all of their different experiences and how they're overlapping all that day. So some of the people were from the kibbutzim, Kfar Aza and Be'eri, and some people were at the Nova Festival, and other people were like they had people featured who were living in like neighboring moshavs and whatever who got in their car and tried to go and help and rescue and all that stuff in the early hours before, when people still were unaware of what was actually going on. And it was very well done. And he and I were able to like seriously reflect on that. But we've also, talked, about the most absurd things like, the crazy stupid things that people say, like the absolutely ignorant things people say, like when the Iranian helicopter fell, we're like, everyone was like, oh yeah, it was the Mossad officer helicopter. And I was like, do you understand how stupid you are when you say things like that? Like, because in other countries, and I asked other people from other countries, like that are not just Israel, like they don't say helicopter, they call it an helicopter. Helicopter. Like that's what a helicopter is, an helicopter. So like the fact that someone's like, oh yeah, his name is helicopter. And that is not just from that, but it's like, oh my God, how stupid are you? Like when you think, is there just like the sound of air going from one ear out the other? Like I just
It's
don't
like
understand.
the wind tunnel nowadays, but yeah.
I really think it is. And and I don't want to say like these ignorant kids, because it's not. It's so much more than that. And I think that, John, this is what
No,
one
it's
of the things I want to get into with you.
institutionalized.
It is,
It's
well, that, but it's also accepted. And like, by the way, do you remember like our parents would like tell us things like toughen up,
yeah.
dust yourself off, get up,
Rub some dirt
don't
on
be
it.
a victim. Don't be a victim. And I actually had this conversation today. My son has to have a surgery, and one of the people in the doctor's office was saying she remembers her dad saying, "Oh, like suck it up, get back out there on the field, or go make the next play, or whatever it is." Because now, obviously, like certain things like injuries, like we have now learned, like maybe you shouldn't play through pain, but
Well,
it was
I'm
like, okay, so you got a bad grade. Guess what that means? You did not study hard enough. You did not put enough time in. You didn't stay after. You didn't say to the teacher, I don't understand. It is your fault. It is not the teacher's fault. And these
I'm a firm
protesters,
believer
like,
in real world consequences to actions. And so,
did you
yeah,
just say consequences?
right?
Whoa. I
Yeah,
don't think they even know what that word means. They sure as hell can't spell it. We know that because they can't spell. But
correct.
like, listen, when you're going to tell me like that you want to kill me or stuff, like, could you at least spell it correctly? Like, I mean, have the decency to tell me and spell it correctly. I mean, I'm asking for so little here.
Right?
But, they're like, I am demanding, I need food and water, and I can't take my McDonald's because I'm like feeling triggered.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's my
They
question,
did a
John.
hunger strike that lasted what, like 7 hours because they got hungry.
I know, and then they went
So-
to the dining hall. Can I ask you a question though? Like, if you saw one of your children out there, would you not head to that campus and drag their ass out of there
Goodness,
and like physically berate them and possibly smack them upside the head on their way out? Because like I kind of wonder, like, as
what happened to-
disgusted as I am by these things that are, oh yeah, it's like so cool to camp out in my Amazon tent and my like keffiyeh scarf, which is like so cool, and it just like came because I came here. Yeah. Listen, sweetie. First of all, Jeff Bezos has ruined everyone for that. Like, even I get pissy when my Amazon shit doesn't come on time. But can I just say, like, where are their parents?
Yes.
Where are their? Who raised you?
And even if the parents are
Not
absent,
even wolves.
who's the adults? Where are the adults? I'm sure you've seen
Seriously,
Reagan.
did they all just
when he was
spawn?
Apparently. No, I mean, when I was in my 20s, I used to say some people's children. Now it's like everyone's children, right? But I don't know if it's the participation trophies to blame or whatever, or I don't know. I got my ass whooped when I was a kid with a belt, with a paddle, but apparently I don't know if that has anything to do with it either. But there should be consequences to actions, and not just like, oh, let's take some time to self-reflect.
So like you said, you went to college later in life, and maybe as more of an adult, that was even more interesting to you. But like when I was in school, like in college, my parents They did as much as they could. I applied for scholarships. I took out loans. And if I didn't show up to class, if I missed a certain amount of classes, like I understood because the rules in this crazy thing called a syllabus
Right?
that the teacher would give out with the expectations
Oh,
of the class.
I got a story for
If
you.
you missed a certain amount of classes, you basically then lost credit. The school did not refund your money. You did not get an A. You did not even get a C, like, thank you for coming later.
Right?
You didn't even get a D. You failed. You forfeited. Okay. And it was also on you to study. Like, you had to go. And then if you didn't
Yeah.
understand or were lacking something, you had to contact the professor or the teacher's assistant, depending on how big your college was, and figure out or talk to someone to understand. And then you had to show up and do well on
Yeah.
the testing and
Office hours,
examination things
study
and all of
hall,
that crazy things.
right?
Right. So, and the library, and back in the day when you actually had to find out like the volumes of an encyclopedia, God forbid.
Remember the Dewey Decimal System? You had to pull out the thing
I
and
do
go through
remember the Dewey
cards.
Decimal
Yeah.
System. Yes, when you'd learn how to do that in the library. I don't know that I could do that now. If someone asked me, I don't know that I remember, but it doesn't matter because that's not how it works anymore.
Yeah,
But
you can
anyway,
Google anything now,
like,
right?
right. But here's the thing: you were, and if you didn't do well in a class, like say you went all the time, but you were just like, no, I wasn't paying attention, or it just didn't make sense to me, and I never got help, and you failed. Guess what? You did not get credit, and you did not pass. So you still have to take that requirement or that class, and so you would have to then pay for it all over again.
Right? So
I'm just confused, John. I'm confused, and maybe
when it comes
you
to
can explain it to me.
when it comes
I
to
don't know because it doesn't make sense.
the lunatics running the asylum, it's
No,
everywhere
that's
now.
true.
Well, like
Yeah.
I was telling you before the podcast, one of the things that I did, and this was with the Chicago Jewish Alliance, we went to the Glenbrook South school board meetings, and that's where I
Yes, and my
came
friend
across.
was there too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's because there was a quote in there. Forgive me, I'm
I
probably
c-
misquoting the quote, but it was more or less saying I woke up and saw what Palestine did October 7th, and I was happy. It was something to not very far off from that.
Yeah, it's
Um,
they were glorifying a terrorist group,
yeah,
murdering, raping, dismembering, burning. Yeah,
and,
totally. Yeah. And I remember that, and it did not get nearly enough media attention that it should
right.
have.
So, all
I
right,
know that's kind of an ironic statement, but
we went
that's all right.
and talked to them. Went to the school board. The initial meeting, there was probably 100 Palestinian flags, people, and same with the Jewish side, and everyone was heated and talking that night, and it was crazy. So they decided that they were going to go and they were going to hire a lawyer and investigate the whole thing. We came
Yeah.
back, made more speeches. The pro-Palestinian people didn't show up. It was just the Jewish people because it was a very Jewish neighborhood, very Jewish school district. And one of the things that came out during the investigation was
Mm-hmm.
that the yearbook teacher, Mrs. Fields, she had been doing this for 23 years, I think.
The cookie lady.
I had that thought too. Maybe she should have stuck to cookies. But apparently her
Seriously.
yearbook was award winning. I didn't know yearbooks could win awards, but her yearbook was thicker
Oh
than
yeah.
some textbooks. I mean, it was like an amazing yearbook. I'll give her that. But the lawyer who did the investigating, one, said that as early as 2001, a student wrote her a letter saying thank you for letting us pretty much do what we had to do and not being involved. She couldn't produce a
Thank you for
syllabus.
taking your stipend
Yes,
and doing nothing.
yes. And she couldn't produce a
Kudos, Mrs.
syllabus,
Fields.
which I think is bullshit. There has to be a syllabus for a class, right? There was no grading rubric. More or less, if these kids went and turned in their assignments on time, they got an A. That's it. And the assignments were deadlines like journalism, right? So the
What?
yeah, and so they what it boiled down to, she used some Jewish kids as a scapegoat. She's like, well, two of my editors in chief were Jewish, so I didn't think it was anti-Semitic. That's not okay. For one, you're the adult, and two, uh, they I was so worked up over this one. I can't
No,
even
you're
put it
like,
into
I'm
words.
sorry.
Yeah.
None of your stupid
Right.
words are helpful. Like, you're
And
literally just showing me that you're stupid over and over and over and over and over again.
I mean, she could
Wow.
have at least said, "Hey, you might want to think about this quote." And I said, I was in the military, and we had a saying: "One off shit runs 1,000 attaboys." Her yearbook won awards for years. She had her attaboys, but she just had her off shit moment, and you guys better do
Mm-hmm.
something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, they didn't fire her. They
Nope.
gave her, I think it was 30 days, maybe 60, but I think it was 30 days unpaid suspension. They gave her, told her she couldn't work
By
on
the
the
way,
yearbook
you know
anymore.
why it was 30 you want to know why that's what it was?
Why?
You realize what that is, though, right? So I used to teach.
Yeah, okay.
Teachers don't get paid over the summer.
It was over the
It's
summer.
a 10
Yeah.
It's a 10-month position. You don't get paid over the summer. So they said it was a consequence. It wasn't.
I was wondering that.
She wasn't getting paid anyway, so you probably should share that with people.
Because the ruling came out in July, I want to say.
But you should call them out on that, because they are absolutely full of crap.
Oh.
Because teachers don't get paid over the summer unless they're like actively teaching summer school. So,
and I had that thought. I wasn't sure though, and I didn't want to. I don't like speaking.
you were right to have that thought.
I don't like speaking to uneducatedly, as I'm stumbling over my words. I don't like speaking dumber. Yeah.
Well, take it from a former or a reformed teacher. There's no pay over the summer because you're not teaching. So, like, when I was like, "Oh, teachers have such," no, they don't get paid over the summer. Like, that's why teachers have all these other jobs.
So,
but yes,
but she's no longer
she should
allowed.
be fired. She should, and
she's gonna retire.
Everyone,
she's got 20 some odd years. She's gonna retire.
Yeah, and she's gonna collect her full pension, and she should not. She should not be allowed to collect her full pension, because that's, taxpayer money and everything else. And like, so you know what? Like, suck it.
Indeed.
Own your mistakes.
Real world consequences, and you're supposed to lead actions,
by,
right?
Well, this is the problem. How the kids? Why would kids think that there are consequences when we don't have consequences for our actions? Look, let's be honest, John. There are things that have happened from the. I don't even know how I can call it leadership of the White House, because it's definitely not leadership,
right?
Like that.
The absence of
that. That like brain dead over. Okay, I'm not going to insult her appearance, because that's just petty. And it
she
speaks
does
for
look
itself.
like Jar Jar Binks, though.
Okay, I just can't even with her. Like, every time she opens her mouth, I was like, I want to be like, how many times was she dropped on her head? Because, like, and she is so overall, like, unapologetic for the things that they have absolutely said that are wrong. When she's asked about anti-Semitism, she says Islamophobia.
Right?
I was like, let's be real, okay? By the way, she'd be one of the first people that would have the parade and roof party because of her lifestyle. So, bye-bye. I'll fly you over right now.
Right, that was one of my more recent posts in the past couple of days. Was the press secretary answering, what are we going to do about the anti-Semitism? And she's like, well, there's a real problem.
She said Islamophobia.
Yeah. And
yes, I posted it. I think you
I might
also
have
were
stole
on
it from
that.
You. I'm sorry. No,
I don't know. It's totally fine. No, it's fine.
I try and tag everyone I borrow from.
But again, like, it doesn't matter, because I just want the truth out there. And the thing is, the other thing is, like, all these headlines and major media outlets and we're like, 6 hostages returned. No.
Rescued.
The IDF recovered 6 bodies, lifeless bodies, and they returned the bodies to Israel, because in Judaism, burial is very important.
It's supposed to be in the first 24 hours, right?
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were courteous enough to give that to Osama bin Laden, if you don't recall.
I just can't.
Just saying.
It's like, or people that say, "Oh, September 11th was an inside job," or "I understand why Osama bin Laden." Or, oh, stop.
Right?
Like, stop.
Don't get me wrong. I love a good conspiracy theory, and there are things that can make you go, but really, it was Osama bin Laden. He's a terrorist. He openly admitted, and there's no way he's a good guy. Even his family disowned him. Disowned him. It's crazy.
Like, here's the thing. You want to tell me the moon landing is fake? I'll almost give you that. Like, I'll be like, okay, you're just a nut job. But like when you start to say things like, oh yeah, and about any of what's going on, like September 11th, what happened in Afghanistan, what's going on in Israel, I'm sorry, like I just can't, because that's not like you are misled, like deeply,
No, you're vastly
probably
misinformed
mentally
and
unstable and like wear
ignorant.
a tinfoil hat.
Yeah.
No, like no, because like look, there are people who have like mental illnesses who believe like deep some serious
I've
like
met
multi-level
some.
conspiracy.
Yeah.
Right. And like I feel for you if that's the case. But what's going on now is not that. And America, like I plead with you. John is pleading with you, and he gave he he has a family history and gave and chose to serve this country and get shot at, quite frankly. And it's not fun to get shot at, John. I don't. Maybe if like we let all these people get shot at, then maybe they would understand.
Yeah.
But it just baffles me that you think that you have the right to take this flag with the 50 stars for the 50 states.
And you know what's crazy though?
Stomp on it and rip it and burn it. And by the way, John, please tell me if you understand this at all, because I most certainly do not. By the way, the dogs are really, see, the dogs are like, they already know what I'm going to, they are not happy. They are like livid because they know what I'm about to say. When you destroy property, especially federal property. Listen, I watch a lot of NCIS and stuff and FBI International and FBI, so I know when a crime takes place on federal property, it's a federal crime. It's not a state crime. So explain to me, when our national monuments are being defaced and destructed,
right?
Why are these people not suffering any consequences? Why are they not in jail? What, like, oh my God,
I'll tell you why.
Why are my tax dollars paying
I'll
for
tell you why.
it to be cleaned?
Pandering to identity politics. That's why. They're pandering. And you know what's sad? Half those fuckers aren't even going to vote.
No, but the best part is they're screaming like Genocide Joe, and now they're probably saying genocide, whatever the hell they're saying about her, because I'm not even uttering her name, because I literally I get I get a little vomit in my throat every time.
I heard
when like the people in the squad, like it's just.
I heard one the other day was like Kamala Hamas or something like that. Anyway. Oh, and
well, she is,
yeah,
and she is, and the thing is, like, I also want to be like,
her stepdaughter and her.
How dumb are you?
And
that like
back to
that you think that pandering to this group is going to help you? I mean, listen, Borders are. I know that you've been letting all these illegal immigrants in because you think they're going to vote for you, but like, by the way, they're going to rape and murder whoever the hell they want because you're letting in all these like crazy criminals. But like, listen, when you dance with the devil, you go into hell too.
So I completely agree with you.
She didn't learn anything from that song, you know, like
I actually
fiddle
I
off
went
with
to
the
a
devil.
Southern revival once with Charlie Daniels, and he showed up and did that. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there was also a guy.
I mean,
there's a movie called Faith
Like
Potatoes. It's a great interfaith movie. You should watch it. But I'll get to interfaith stuff here later too. I gotta go. But
I fear monsters. I don't lay in bed with monsters, and I don't like.
You're missing out.
Listen, like, girl, there are a lot of movies and TV shows and like even some of those real like church exorcism type things. Holy crap! I'm scared for life. Okay, so why on earth would you align yourself with that kind of evil and think for a hot second that is not going to backfire?
Right? What was the old
and
remember Aesop's Fables?
I just can't.
When you were a kid, did you ever read Aesop's Fables?
Oh my God! Wow, I have not like thought about that. And
right, one of the fables was about a scorpion who wanted to ride across the river. And he's like, "No, you're going to sting me." He goes, "No, I won't." And so he trusts the scorpion to take him across the river. Scorpion stings him. He's like, "Why'd you do that?" He goes, "I'm a scorpion. That's what I do." Right? Aesop's fables. Kids don't read it, right?
I don't like reading. It's like
Right?
super boring.
Right? And back to
Yeah,
your
I don't know.
flag thing. Most Americans don't know this, but Google USC 4, United States Code 4. It's all about the American flag and how it's illegal to harm it. It's a federal law,
Yeah, unless you're burning it and shouting "Free Palestine."
right?
Yeah. So the thing is, like, we could go on and on and on, and I think, John, you're just going to have to become a recurring guest, just like I am Joe Paul, just like Paul Faust, just like Hillel Fuld, just like all these people, because there's not enough time to drop this much knowledge, and the thing is, I think that, like, there's so much to it, but I really like it. It just I'm just so terrified, and because, like, I really am, I'm very, very alarmed now. Yes, I am moving to Israel. I'm making Aliyah. I am so incredibly excited, because I think that it's something I love and appreciate because of the upbringing and the time that I grew up in this country to understand and respect and appreciate. And by the way, one of my closest friends growing up was a Muslim. Okay. Her name was Faiza Mujtaba. They were from Pakistan. I think her parents still live in town. All I knew about her family was, like, they were from Pakistan. Her dad was some sort of doctor. I have no idea what kind of doctor. So sorry, Dr. Mujtaba. I don't know what kind of doctor you are. But Faiza and I, like, on field day, do you remember, for like field day, like the end of the school year? So the the school would have, like, the cookout. But you'd have a cookout. So Faiza and I would not be able to eat the hot dogs because
they weren't kosher, right?
I didn't ever really understood that. I didn't know that hot dogs had, like, well, if you actually think about what's in them, it's horrible. But so my parent, right? My mom or her mom, my mom or her mom would bring in the Hebrew National all beef hot dogs and have them, like, cooked separately for us, so that her and I could still, like, eat with our friends and stuff. And I would be at her house, she'd be at my house. Like, there was never anything but respect and appreciation for one another. Even right, like, now, some of my friends in Israel are Israeli Arabs. I'll say that again. They are Israeli Arabs. They are Muslim. They are not Jews. I know more Israeli Druze and Israeli Muslims than I know Israeli Christians, but that's not for lack of trying. I just haven't met a lot of Christians, but I don't hang out in that area of Jerusalem. So maybe if I spent more time, then I would. But I did go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So, like, but nobody was talking. It's not a chatty place. So it's not a place to make friends. Like, hey, what's up, lady? No, but it was it's something that's worth noting. And what I want to kind of to put out there, and I think that this is important because, whether you said you're in the process of converting, but it's rather irrelevant because what we're talking about here are values, right? Humanity, respect, and this crazy thing called equality, and not, like, none of the God, like, I'm not talking about twisting words and nothing about politics. Like,
no,
the thing that's very important
earlier, it's an attack on Western democracy, Western values. It's not just American values. It's not just Israeli values. If you look at all of Europe, it's the same. And to go back to,
and look what happens when you don't fight for it. Like, look at what France and England are facing right now.
Right, and Germany's trying to unfuck their situation. Excuse my language.
But Germany is, like, that's the place to be, by the way, right now, because they are the only people that are like, oh, hell no.
And Poland,
like, they
too.
learned the hard way.
Hasn't accepted
they learned the hard way.
Refugee.
Well, right. Poland was not so great either. Like, Germany and Poland were, like, the two worst.
Once upon a time ago, right? Yeah, but they're making amends.
Yeah, back when we weren't white enough, but now we're too white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of your former guests, Rabbi Pesach, right? I told you the story, the Christmas tree story.
Yep.
Yeah. I love his story. He's with Israel 365. I'm going to plug them real quick. they try and go and have an build interfaith
Yes, they
relations.
do. Yes,
And
they do.
and
He has a podcast with
oh
it's a Judeo-Christian. Yeah.
yeah, I listen to it. I love the man. I've had Shabbat Oneg with him. I've listened to him speak probably 4 or 5 times now. And my favorite story of his is, I call it the Christmas tree story. And he was saying, he was in New York City, the day after Thanksgiving, and they were lighting the Christmas tree there. It was a Rockefeller.
Rockefeller Center.
Yeah,
Big deal. Big deal. Yep.
yeah. And the pro pally people started, saying, Christmas is canceled. Christmas is canceled. And he's like, it wasn't just there. They did it in London, and then they did it
Mm-hmm.
in Rome for Easter. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, why am I telling you this? Because he's always usually in a room that's at least half filled with Jewish people, right? He's like,
Mm-hmm.
the Jewish people in this room are like, what does it matter? This Jews don't celebrate Christmas. We don't celebrate Easter, right? Because it's not an attack on Jews. It's an attack
Right.
on Western values. And they've been saying it for years, and you better listen, right? First it's the Saturday people, then it's the Sunday people, right?
So very true. Yes. Now, and very much on that note, I think that it's just so scary to me because, like, again, Israel is the only thing standing
It
in
is.
between them coming to the West. The West is next. There was, I talk to people while I'm in Israel working, because I'm always trying to record new stuff for the podcast and bring people things for my documentary and other things like that. And I just genuinely love talking to people.
I do
And
too.
I think that's how I know this is a crazy thing, but learn.
Right?
So
Listen
I
to
was
old
having,
people. They have good stories, and they can
oh
teach
my
you
God,
something.
I love visiting older people just to hear their experiences, like when things were different, or especially the people talking about the Great Depression, living through the Great Depression or something like that, because you can read about it, but you can't really understand what it was like unless someone really shares their own experiences. So, and on that note, and I think in Israel there is this real sense of like caring about one another. And one of my recent podcast guests, this brave, amazing woman, Noah Ruveni, who just was in the U.S. speaking on behalf of the Hostage Forum, and she was in Chicago. Yep. So she told the story on my podcast that the night before the podcast, her car, I think it was like her tire, she had a flat tire or something like that. And she was saying, it's like 6 different people stopped. Everyone's like, hey, are you okay? Okay. Who, whatever. And when she was able to get the car to the mechanic person, she's like, the first thing he did was ask me if I had eaten. Offered me tea, coffee. Well, actually, ready,
if you're
John?
single? Yeah.
No. He was Muslim.
Oh.
He's an Israeli Arab.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
And she was like, do you think for 1 second he was like Jewish, Arab, Christian? No. Nobody checks. Nobody cares.
No.
Okay. Nobody cares in Israel. You are Israeli. You are Israeli. And I tell this story any chance I get. I have friends in Israel, like I said, who are Israeli, but they are not Jewish. They are Druze. They are Bedouin. They are Muslim. And one of my friends who is an Israeli Muslim is a police officer in Israel. And he not only was in the IDF, but he chose to be a police officer. And when October 7th happened, he was overseas. He likes to travel. And he immediately returned home on the first flight that he could and went right to work, because he knew that other people would be called up for reserve, and he knew that police would be working like 24/7. And immediately he showed up. Another one of my Israeli Arab friends, he chose to serve in the IDF when he was younger, and he immediately reported for Miluim, for reserve duty. Not a single hesitation. He is Israeli. He will tell you, these are my brothers and sisters. We don't worship the same, but this is my family. This is my country. I do not want to live anywhere else. I want to live here, and I want to live in peace. And one of the things that I think is so important, and we will have all the ways to contact you that you are willing to put, whether it's just the Instagram page or that and something else, whatever, that's up to you. I kind of want to leave everyone with this because we are going to be having you back and we'll be talking about other things. But there was a story, and I think that this kind of sums up what you've been going through, what you've experienced, and why you're doing this. And so during my, I call it my bonus time, after the American-owned airlines all were like, we out. Now United was like, we're a bunch of wimps. We out for the month. Okay, beseder. Okay, fine. At least you're honest. Delta. We're gonna cancel flights, but we're totally rescheduling people. No, you're not. Now, I know people that fly for Delta, like they are flight attendants. Not an easy job, by the way. And they all told me that anyone who was flying the U.S. to Israel legs were being reassigned. So when Delta was lying to their passengers, their customers, Delta, liars. See, my dad warned them. He's like, my daughter is a journalist and she's going to talk about you every time. And they're like, okay. And I was like, well, guess what I am. They kept telling my parents, oh, we're rebooking her. And I was like, I don't care. I'm here. I mean, yes, I had to get back to my son at some point, obviously, my parents were obviously with him. He wasn't like unattended, but,
just roaming around.
But, yeah, but they were lying and saying they were rescheduling. So I think that they are absolutely disgusting, and they owe everyone an apology, and they need to own up to the fact that they're a bunch of liars. But I did fly home on an El Al, which I would have flown in the first place. It was just too expensive for my son and I to both come. So in any event, I'm on my bonus time. So I was staying in a hotel, a very nice hotel. Everyone was just really great. I got to know a lot of the people there because I talked to people, and they were housing some displaced families. And that's important to me. And that's something we can talk about another time, like ways we are going to get you to Israel, whether it's like partially you're touring and partially you're volunteering, maybe you're like doing some stuff with IDF or with like,
Jewish girl,
with
right?
law enforcement or that. We're like, listen, my friend is Eliza Ben Shalom. She is the Jewish matchmaker. Her series on Netflix, Jewish. Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah, that's Eliza Ben Shalom. So Eliza.
It's funny.
I love you. No, honestly, she's literally the nicest person in the world. I love her. I truly love her. Eliza, I love you. I really do.
I get
like
people
she is
to watch
that
show. I do, because everyone knows the Indian matchmaker one, and for some reason, even Jewish people that I talked to didn't know there was a Jewish one. Like, oh, you gotta watch it.
I watched the Indian one also. I found it fascinating. But I'm a binge watcher of those types of things. So. But Eliza is amazing, and she has Instagram and Facebook, and she's on, and she's got a site, and she's really amazing. So I'm just saying, John, like I can talk to her for you. But I was in the hotel and talking to the people at the restaurant that does breakfast for the hotel, and it's in the hotel, and I talked to a lot of the different people that were working there, and there was one guy who was Israeli, multi-generation Israeli. There was another guy, he's an Ethiopian refugee, Israeli. And I'm just trying to think who else. Well, there was really only 4 main people that I talked to who I saw like daily at the restaurant. No, because there were other people, but they weren't there like enough for me to talk to them. And then there were two other gentlemen.
You frequent, and you end up having the same schedule or whatever. Yeah, I do the same. Like,
right. I mean, like I went down every day for breakfast.
Hey, Bob. You're here again. Yeah.
Well, like I like to ask people questions, and at first
too.
people are always like a little like, right. They're sometimes people are a little like, whatever. But usually, like Israelis are just they all want to know your story, especially like why are you in Israel? They are genuinely interested to know. So the other two were Israeli Arabs. Now, one of the 2 Israeli Arab guys never seemed to want to talk to me, and I was like, is he scared of me, or like does he not speak any English? Because my Hebrew's pretty bad when I speak. So unfortunately, I end up speaking in English usually as my response to a question in Hebrew. And the guy was like, no. I'm like, does he hate me? Does he not like me? Why won't he talk to me? And then I was like, oh my God, is he religious and he won't talk to me because I'm a woman? Like have a direct conversation, like an independent conversation when no one's around. And then I was like, oh my God, I didn't think of that. Because I did like accidentally like not like walk in on him while he was praying, but I walked by just to grab some ice, and like the restaurant was like kind of closed, but I knew I could go get some ice. And he was praying, and I was like, oh God, like I felt so bad for interrupting him, right? And I like ran back out. I was like, oh God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And so it was fine. It was so funny because I guess one of the other guys was like, she thinks you hate her. So all of a sudden, like it was my second to last day or third to last day there. And he just was like, hi. And I looked at him and I go, oh, you speak. Cool. And he was like, yes, I speak. And I was like, Meet ber Anglit or rock Ivrit, be Arabic. And he was like, Arabic, Ivrit, Gaming, Anglit. And I was like, then why have you not spoken to me like all week? I kept saying like, why? And I was like, did I offend you? He's like, no. And I think honestly, he's just shy. So
I always thought
which is weird because like you and I are both very extrovert people who are like, wait, what? Like that doesn't make sense to me. Right. So I have my tags on because we were talking about them before. And so he was like, slicha. And, it wasn't like he went to touch me, but he was like, he pointed. And so I picked it up like this and like this, and he took it in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking like, I don't know where this conversation is going because like, it's been a week of you ignoring me. And now all of a sudden you're talking to me. Right. So then he does something that I have to tell you, John, surprised me. And so he goes like this and he's like holding my tag and I'm like, okay, like I don't know what's coming next. Like I truly don't know what's coming next. And then he reaches inside his own shirt and he pulls out his hostage tag and he puts them together and he goes, see, we're the same. And I just started crying.
Oh, I would too. I'd bawl like a baby. I would.
And I was like, why didn't you talk to me all week? And he was like, we're the same. And I was like, Barul, motik sheli, barul. Like I'm talking to him in Hebrew. I'm like, yes, of course. Like, and I'm like, but I was like, and then he was like, he's younger. I think he's like in his 20s. And so of course he's got this like woman crying now. All of a sudden now he's like freaked out because he's like, I don't know. Because with all due respect, a lot of men don't know what to do when women start crying.
I still don't.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, I know.
They're there.
We cry when we're happy. We cry when we're sad. Sometimes we cry when we're frustrated. Sometimes we cry and we don't know why.
I have a daughter, and she once told me at age 4, and it still holds true. Dad, you don't know anything about women, do you?
From the mouths of babes,
right? I know chocolate, wine, and flowers. That's all I know.
Yeah. So and you can't go wrong. But on that note, it was really funny because I feel like that really helps me express to people the point of all of this, like that we have to, anyone who has a soul, who has a heart, who has a brain needs to say, this is not okay. I will not tolerate this. I will speak up. Whether it's I'm a Jew and like what Eitan Shatayat said, speak up and tell one person I'm Jewish. I am Jewish. And don't be afraid. Like, don't be afraid to say it. And he's like, even if you can only say it to one person, and he was on my podcast in Israel. I was very, very privileged to have him on the podcast in Israel. And we were sitting and talking and he's like, no, not everyone doesn't have to go like over the top. And I was wearing my Zionist AF shirt. He had his I'm That Jew shirt on. I have all my Israeli silver on. And my hair is still blue. You can't really see it as much anymore. It's much more faded. And he was like, I'm not saying everyone has to go doing all of that you do. And I was like, I know. And I do this whether I'm here in the States or in Israel. I don't dial it down here in the States, even though people are like, I really think you should. I was like, oh, bring it. Bring it. I am not afraid of you. And I'm not saying everyone has to be that way. And I'm not saying everyone has to start a page like you did, John. But I'm saying that if you have a heart and a soul and you are a human and you value democracy and freedom and, I don't know, actual normal life, then you will stand up and say, this is not okay. I stand with Israel. You will demand that the people in the government do what is right and stand with our one and only ally in the Middle East and stop these terrorist groups once and for all. Because listen, they might hate me the most, but they hate all of you just it's a close second. Okay.
And that's why I think I believe in unifying, and that's why my page is called Rally to Never, because I want everyone to rally, not just Jewish people. I want allies. I want all Americans. Yes. I want all Israelis. I want all Western people to realize that not never again, rally to never, period. Because after the Holocaust, you guys were told never again, right? And
we were.
Right? And there's a comedian that I love. His name's Yonder. I post some of his stuff too. He's Israeli. He was like, now what? Never ever again? Never ever 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 again? I want to
not
just
again. No. Yeah. Wait, hold on. Don't.
And that's why I call it rally to never. Period.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't
this never
ever be,
should be allowed.
Right?
It never should have been allowed. It never should ever be allowed. And John, I thank you for being, actually, my friend, the Angry Mom said this very well. She was like, where are all the men?
Right.
And there was the one fraternity down south, like,
the frat bros.
This is not a sexist thing. This is not a sexist thing.
But Jewish women are so strong. It impresses me. Jewish women, like I said, you hold the light, you bring in Shabbos, you hold life, but Jewish women are strong. Oh my
I cannot
goodness.
wait till you are like in a room full of Israeli women, John, because you're going to be so excited and terrified all at the same time.
Yonder had one like that too.
Because I think that I'm a strong woman, but I am not as strong as most Israeli women, and I thank them for making Israeli men the way that they are, because they are,
and they hold them accountable,
persistent,
right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They have so much persistence because the Israeli women have like been like no,
yes.
and like. But the thing is, we are going to get you there. I'm gonna definitely hook you with some people that are gonna get you there, whether it's volunteering or whatever. But the thing is, we need people to remember the good in humanity and hold up our values, our Western values, our democratic values. I will say, like, I am pleading with you, American Jews, please leave the Democratic Party that has never loved you and has literally treated you like ass. And I'm not saying you got to vote for Trump. I mean, you can write my name in for president.
Right.
You could write John's name, but make sure you specify not the actor John Goodman, because we don't want him all of a sudden becoming president. Well, and when you were really trying to vote for this John,
he'd probably be better, right? I don't know.
I'm just saying, I don't want your vote stolen. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to vote for John, he's right here.
I actually tried to run for office once upon a time ago. I did. And
well, you know what? There's still time.
Yeah, I was
maybe not for this year's, this coming election, but we'll get you there. And the thing is, I am pleading with you guys. Remember values, please. I can say whatever I want, but my actions speak volumes.
Right?
Okay. It's not what people say. It's what they have done, what they are doing, and what they will do again. So I plead with you, America.
Three-quarters of the last 16 years has got us where? Just saying. 3/4 of the last 16 years has got us where?
Not in a good way.
Right.
So, John, all of the ways to contact you, if you guys have any questions about the page, or even about any of the serious or funny things that we have said today, you guys always know how to reach out to me. But all of John's contact information will be posted on the podcast, and we're just going to have you back again, and we're going to hopefully, in the next few podcasts, be updating people about, when you're going to Israel and what you're doing.
Right. I can't wait for an update. In the meantime, check out Rally to Never. Check out your podcast, right? Check out Israel 365, One Jewish State for those who are already Jewish, right? Yeah. And,
hi, Rabbi Pesach.
Yeah. And Jexit. Siggy Flicker and the Jexit girls, love you to death. I've been following them since Trump's first go around, actually. So
yeah. And also, if you're not already following Mage_45, John,
yes,
you should.
I
Rachel
am.
Herman, she's amazing. Yes, I know you are because I've seen her stuff on there. Rachel's amazing. She was on the podcast already. She had one of the best quotes ever, and I think it's perfect. And Rachel, because I love you, this is this is for you. So Rachel and I were sitting together in New York City, recording the podcast, and in this very nice diner. Like, they were just lovely people. And we were talking about all the absurd things that are going on, and how she kind of came to who she is, and like, she really, she wasn't like this Israel advocate, but she was like, I have to say what I have to say. And she has been, outspoken about gay rights, but also she's very outspoken about the grooming of kids and stuff like that. And not all of what she has to say lands well with people, but she is openly a gay rights activist, and I give her so much credit for everything that she's done, because she is a very brave woman. Now, Rachel, we were talking about some of course, the absurdity and like the Queers for Palestine. So I said, okay, so Rachel, like, what would you say, as someone in your position with the audience that you have, with the things, your causes that you stand for, about this whole Queers for Palestine? And in typical Rachel fashion, she does not miss a beat, and she says, well, there might be queers for Palestine, but they're gays for Israel. And I turned and looked at her, and I was like, I love you. You just don't miss a beat. You don't miss a beat. And actually, there's that was one of the clips that her and I clipped together for the promo for that particular podcast.
Nice.
Because it was just gold. So listen, we do try to bring you information and entertainment here on Zionist AF, because I am unapologetically a Zionist. And if Zionism is a dirty word, talk dirty to me, baby.
Nice.
John, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a Zionist and a human. And thank you again for serving the United States of America in the Air Force and choosing to do that, because it's not something that's mandatory.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you. Oh gosh, he yes ma'am'd me. See, that's how you know he was in the service. All right, everyone. John Goodman, not the actor, but the service member. John Goodman. Thank you.